Hana opened her eyes slowly. Her head felt heavy and strange. The last thing she remembered was walking on the mountain trail near the DMZ with her friends. They had been looking for rare rocks for her geology class. Now she was somewhere else. The room around her was not like anything she had ever seen. The walls were smooth and white, but they seemed to glow with their own light. There were no windows and no door that she could see. The air smelled clean but wrong, like it had been made in a machine. Hana sat up carefully. Her body felt normal, but something was different. The gravity felt lighter than it should. When she moved her hand, it felt like she was underwater. She looked down at herself. She was still wearing her hiking clothes, dark pants, a warm jacket, and her sturdy boots. But her backpack was gone. She stood up and walked to one of the walls. When she got close, she could see that it was not really solid. There was a faint blue shimmer, like heat waves on a hot day. She reached out to touch it, and her hand stopped at the shimmer. It felt like touching thick jelly that would not move. So the specimen is awake. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was deep and had a strange buzzing sound to it. Hana turned around quickly, but she was still alone in the room. "Do not be afraid, primitive one. You are safe for now." Hana did not answer. She had learned long ago that sometimes the best thing to do was stay quiet and watch. Her grandfather had taught her this when she was small. "Listen first, speak later," he always said. A section of the wall became clear, like a window. On the other side, Hana could see a creature that made her heart beat faster. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, and covered in what looked like green armor, but the armor seemed to be part of its skin. It had 4 arms and a head that was too long. Its eyes were large and black, and there were several of them. "I am Commander Kethavar of the Vorthak Empire," the creature said. "You are now aboard our research vessel. We have taken you from your primitive world to study your kind." Hana kept her face blank. Inside, her mind was racing. This was not possible. Aliens were not real, but the creature in front of her was very real. Its mouth had too many teeth, and when it spoke, she could see them clearly. "Your planet is what we call a Deathworld," Kethavar continued. "The gravity is too strong. The weather is too violent. The life forms are too aggressive. How your weak species survived is a mystery we wish to solve." The alien moved closer to the clear wall. Hana could see more details now. Its skin was not smooth like armor. It had patterns and ridges. Its 4 arms moved independently, like they all had their own minds. "We have been watching your kind for some time. You are soft and weak. You have no natural weapons, no thick skin, no poison, yet somehow you spread across your entire planet. This interests us." Hana remembered her friends. Minsu had been walking behind her on the trail. Sora had been picking flowers. Where were they now? Were they safe? She wanted to ask, but something told her not to show any weakness to this creature. "You may speak," Kethavar said. "We know your kind can make sounds." Hana looked directly at the alien's many eyes. She did not speak. Kethavar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Fear has made you stupid. This is common in primitive species. No matter. We will learn what we need through other methods." The alien turned and walked away. The wall became solid white again. Hana was alone. She sat down on the floor in the center of the room. She crossed her legs and placed her hands on her knees. This was how her grandmother had taught her to sit when she was upset or scared. "Find your center," Grandmother would say. "Breathe slowly. Let your mind become quiet." Hana closed her eyes and began to breathe deeply. In through her nose, out through her mouth. She counted each breath. 1, 2, 3. She let her shoulders relax. She let her mind focus on only her breathing. Her grandmother had taught her many things: how to be still, how to be patient, how to watch and listen, how to find strength in silence. Grandmother had lived through the war. She knew about surviving when things were terrible. The body can be trapped, Grandmother used to say, but the mind can always be free. Hana thought about her brother Deho. He was a soldier now, strong and brave. He would be looking for her. She thought about her parents. They would be worried, but they had raised her to be strong too. Hours passed. Hana did not move. She kept breathing slowly and steadily. Sometimes she heard sounds from outside her prison, footsteps that did not sound human. Voices speaking in languages she did not know, strange mechanical sounds. The aliens came back several times. She could hear them talking on the other side of the wall, but she could not understand their words. Sometimes the wall became clear and they looked at her. She never looked back. She kept her eyes closed and her breathing steady. "Why does it not move?" she heard one of them ask in the buzzing voice. "Perhaps it is broken," said another. "Or maybe it is sleeping." "Impossible. It has been in the same position for 8 hours." Hana almost smiled. 8 hours was nothing. She had once sat in meditation for 12 hours straight during a temple retreat. Her legs had gone numb and her back had ached, but she had not moved. The aliens went away again. Hana kept breathing. She thought about the mountain where they had taken her. She thought about the rocks she had been studying. Each type of rock told a story about the earth, about pressure and heat and time, about how something could be changed completely and still remain strong. She was like a rock now, under pressure, but not breaking. The aliens wanted to study her weakness, but they did not understand. Her grandmother had told her stories about their people, about surviving invasion and war and occupation, about staying strong when everything around you was falling apart. "We are like the mountains," Grandmother had said. "We bend with the wind, but we do not break." Hana kept her breathing slow and even. She would wait. She would watch. She would be like the mountain. And when the time was right, she would show these aliens what a girl from a Deathworld could really do. The wall suddenly became clear again. This time there were 3 aliens looking at her. Commander Kethvar was there, along with 2 others she had not seen before. One was smaller and had different colored skin. The other was covered in what looked like metal tubes and wires. "Subject has maintained the same position for 18 hours, the smaller alien said. It spoke the human language, but its voice was higher and more mechanical than Kethvar's. "Vital signs remain stable, no signs of distress." "Impossible," said the one with the metal attachments. "No species can remain motionless for so long without entering hibernation state. Perhaps the gravity adjustment is affecting its nervous system." Hana kept her eyes closed and her breathing steady. She had learned to listen without seeming to listen. The aliens were talking about her like she was not there, like she was just an object to study. "We will begin the stress response tests," Kethvar said. "Dr. Vexthul, prepare the environmental chamber." "Yes, Commander. What parameters should I use?" "Start with temperature variance. These creatures come from a world with extreme weather patterns. Let us see how extreme they can tolerate." The wall became solid again. A few minutes later, Hana felt the air around her getting colder. It started as a gentle coolness, then became more intense. Soon her breath was making small clouds in the air. The cold bit at her exposed skin, her face and hands. Hana had grown up in Seoul, where winters were harsh and long. She had spent time in the mountains where the temperature dropped far below freezing. Her body knew how to handle cold. She slowed her breathing even more and focused on keeping her core warm. She imagined heat flowing through her body like water, through pipes. The temperature kept dropping. Now it was colder than any winter she had experienced. Her fingers started to feel numb, but she did not move them. She kept them perfectly still on her knees. Ice began to form on the walls of her prison. Temperature is now minus 37 degrees, she heard Dr. Vexthul say. Most species would be showing severe distress by now. Continue, Kethvar ordered. It got colder still. Hana's jacket was good, but not made for this kind of extreme cold. She could feel the temperature trying to steal the heat from her body. But she had learned techniques from her martial arts training. She knew how to move energy through her body without moving her muscles. She thought about warm things. Summer, days, hot tea. The heated floors in her grandmother's house. She imagined fire burning in her stomach, sending warmth to every part of her body. Her breathing never changed. Minus 45 degrees, Dr. Vexthul reported. This is impossible. Its body temperature should be dropping rapidly. Perhaps these Deathworld creatures have some adaptation we do not understand, the third alien said. Their planet does have extreme cold regions. Then we will try heat, Kethvar decided. The cold stopped. Within minutes, the air began to warm up, but it did not stop at comfortable. It kept getting hotter and hotter. Soon, sweat began to form on Hana's forehead, but she did not wipe it. Away. She did not move at all. The heat became intense, like being inside an oven. Her clothes stuck to her skin with sweat. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. But Hana had trained in hot yoga classes where the temperature was pushed to extremes. She knew how to handle heat, just like cold. She changed her breathing technique, longer, slower breaths that cooled the air before it reached her lungs. She relaxed every muscle in her body so it would not work harder than necessary. She imagined herself as ice, staying cool no matter how hot it got around her. 62 degrees and rising, Dr. Vexthul said. His voice sounded confused. No change in behavior. Heart rate slightly elevated, but still within normal range. How? Is this possible? The third alien asked. At this temperature, most creatures would be unconscious or dead. These humans are more adapted than we thought, Kethvar said. Try the gravity test. Suddenly, Hana felt like a giant hand was pushing down on her from above. Her body became incredibly heavy. It felt like she weighed 3 times as much as normal. The pressure pushed down on her shoulders and back. This was harder than the temperature. Changes. Gravity was constant and unforgiving. But Hana's body was strong from years of hiking and martial arts. Her bones were dense from growing up under Earth's natural gravity, which was stronger than what most aliens were used to. She adjusted, her posture slightly, so slightly that the aliens probably could not see it. She shifted her weight to distribute the pressure more evenly. She made her core muscles work harder without changing her breathing. Her grandmother had always said that women were stronger than men thought, stronger than they even knew themselves. Gravity increased to 3 times Earth normal, Dr. Vexthul reported. Subject shows no distress. Posture remains unchanged. Impossible, Kethvar snarled. No creature should be able to maintain that position under such gravity. They tried other things. They filled the air with a gas that smelled terrible and made her eyes water. Hana had grown up in a big city with pollution and smog. She had hiked near factories and waste sites for her geology studies. She knew how to filter bad air through her nose and not let it reach her lungs deeply. They played sounds that were so high and sharp they felt like needles in her ears. But Hana had learned to meditate in noisy places. She knew how to let sounds pass through her mind without letting them disturb her center. They flashed bright lights that changed colors rapidly, trying to disorient her. But Hana kept her eyes closed and focused on the darkness behind her eyelids. Hours passed. Test after test. The aliens became more and more frustrated. Hana could hear it in their voices when they talked to each other. The creature shows no response to any stimulus, Dr. Vexthul said. Perhaps it is in some kind of catatonic state. Or maybe it is more intelligent than we assumed. the third alien suggested. Perhaps it understands that showing weakness would be dangerous. Impossible, Kethvar said. These are primitive creatures. They have barely developed space travel. They fight wars with chemical explosives. They are not capable of this level of mental discipline. But Hana was capable of exactly this level of mental discipline. She had trained for it her whole life, without knowing it. Every meditation session with her grandmother, every difficult hike in bad weather, every martial arts class where she had to hold painful positions until her muscles screamed. Every time she had to stay calm when her brother teased her or when bullies at school tried to make her angry, all of that training had prepared her for this moment. She was not just a geology student from Seoul. She was the granddaughter of a woman who had survived war and occupation. She was the daughter of people who had built a modern nation from the ashes of conflict. She was the sister of a soldier who protected their country. She was stronger than these aliens could possibly understand. "Continue the tests," Kethvar ordered. "This creature will break eventually. They all do." But as the hours passed and Hana remained perfectly still and silent, a small doubt began to grow in the commander's mind. What if this human was different? What if they had underestimated these Deathworld creatures? Hana felt the doubt in the air around her, and deep inside, she almost smiled. 3 days had passed since the testing began. Hana had not moved from her meditation position. She had not spoken a single word. The aliens had tried everything they could think of, but nothing had made her react the way they expected. Commander. Kethvar stood in front of the clear wall, staring at the human girl. His 4 arms were crossed, and his multiple eyes showed his growing anger. Behind him, Dr. Vexthul was checking readings on a strange machine covered in blinking lights. Commander. "I do not understand the data," Dr. Vexthul said. "The subject's brain activity shows she is fully conscious and aware. She is not in shock, not unconscious, not in any kind of medical emergency. She is simply choosing not to respond." "Choosing?" Kethvar turned his long head toward the doctor. "You think this primitive creature is choosing to ignore us? The evidence suggests exactly that, sir. Her vital signs are stable. Her body is functioning normally despite all the stress we have applied. This level of mental control should not be possible for such a young specimen." The third alien, whose name was Mordek, stepped closer to the wall. "Perhaps we have been thinking about this wrong, Commander. What if these humans are not as primitive as we assumed?" Kethvar made an angry buzzing sound. "Impossible. We have observed their civilization. They still burn fossil fuels for energy. They fight wars over small pieces of land. They cannot even work together as a single species. They are barely above the level of intelligent animals." "Yet this one has resisted every test we have performed," Mordek pointed out. "No other species has ever done that. Even the warlike." Krexani broke after the gravity torture. The poison-resistant Veltar begged for mercy during the gas exposure. This human has not even changed her breathing pattern. Kethvar stared at Hana through the wall. She sat in the same position she had maintained for 3 days. Her back was straight, her hands rested on her knees, her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful, like she was sleeping while sitting up. "Maybe she is defective," Dr. Vexthul suggested. "Sometimes specimens are damaged during transport. Perhaps her mind was broken during the abduction process." "Show me the recordings," Kethvar ordered. The wall changed, and suddenly Hana was looking at moving pictures in the air in front of her. But she kept her eyes closed and did not react. She could hear sounds, though, familiar sounds that made her heart clench with pain. "Hana, where are you?" It was Minsu's voice, her boyfriend. She could hear him calling her name. "I found her." "Backpack!" That was Sora, her best friend. "It is torn, like something grabbed her." Hana wanted to open her eyes, wanted to see her friends, but she forced herself to remain still. The sounds continued. She heard Minsu and Sora calling for her, heard them getting worried when they could not find her. Then she heard new sounds, strange humming noises, weapons charging up, her friends screaming, "No!" Minsu's voice was full of terror. "Wait, please, we are just students." The sound of energy weapons firing, the sound of her friends dying. Hana felt something break inside her chest. Her breathing stayed steady, but for the first time since her capture, a single tear rolled down her cheek. "Ah," Kethvar said with satisfaction. "There it is. The creature does have emotions. It can feel pain." The images disappeared. Kethvar moved closer to the wall, all four of his arms pressed against it. "Your companions are dead, human. We killed them to prevent them from reporting your disappearance. They died quickly, which is more mercy than we usually show to primitive species." Hana's tear dried on her cheek. Inside her mind, she said goodbye to Minsu and Sora. She had known they were probably dead, but hearing it confirmed was like being stabbed in the heart. But she did not let the pain show on her face. "Still nothing?" Kethvar sounded frustrated. "Very well. If emotional torture will not work, we will try physical methods." Dr. Vexthul looked uncomfortable. "Commander, the research protocols state that we should avoid permanent damage to specimens until all other tests are complete." The research protocols assume we are dealing with normal specimens, Kethvar snapped. "This creature is obviously abnormal. We need to understand what makes it so resistant to standard interrogation methods." "What do you propose, sir?" "Pain," Kethvar said simply. "Pure, physical pain. Every species responds to pain eventually." A new device appeared in the room with Hana. It was small and round, about the size of her fist, and it floated in the air near her head. It began to make a high-pitched whining sound. Suddenly, Hana felt like lightning was shooting through her entire body. Every nerve screamed at once. It was the worst pain she had ever experienced, worse than breaking her arm as a child, worse than any injury from her martial arts training. But pain was just another sensation, like heat or cold. Her grandmother had taught her that the body feels what it feels, but the mind can choose how to respond. Hana had practiced this during difficult training sessions, when her muscles burned with exhaustion, but she forced herself to continue. She kept her breathing steady. She kept her posture straight. She let the pain wash over her like a wave, feeling it, but not fighting it. Fighting pain only made it stronger. The device stopped. Kethvar waited for her to collapse, or beg, or scream. She did nothing. "Again," he ordered. The lightning pain came back, stronger this time. It felt like her bones were being crushed and her skin was being burned at the same time. Hana's body wanted to convulse, wanted to fall over, wanted to scream until her voice was gone. Instead, she thought about her grandmother's stories, about the war, when enemy soldiers would torture people to get information, about how some people stayed strong no matter what was done to them, about how silence could be the most powerful weapon of all. "Her heart rate is elevated," Dr. Vexthul reported, "but she is not showing any other signs of distress. This should be impossible, Commander." Increase the intensity. The pain became unbearable. It was like every injury she had ever had was happening again all at once, but 100 times worse. Hana's vision went white behind her closed eyelids. Her body trembled slightly, the first movement she had made in days. But she did not fall. She did not cry out. She breathed through the pain like her grandmother had taught her to breathe through fear. "Stop," Dr. Vexthul said suddenly. "Commander, if we continue, we risk permanent brain damage. The neural feedback is approaching lethal levels." Kethvar made the device disappear. He stared at Hana with all of his eyes, and for the first time, she sensed something like uncertainty in his voice. "What are you?" he whispered. Hana did not answer. She sat in her meditation pose, breathing slowly and steadily. The pain was gone now, but the memory of her friends was still fresh in her mind. They had died because of her, because the aliens wanted to study her. She thought about her brother, Dae-ho. He would be looking for her now, organizing search parties, calling in favors from his military contacts. But he would never think to look in space. She thought about her parents, probably crying and praying and hoping she would come home safely. She thought about her grandmother, who had taught her to be strong in the face of impossible odds, and slowly, carefully, Hana began to plan. Commander Kethvar dismissed Dr. Vexthal and Mordek from the observation room. He wanted to be alone with the human girl. For 5 days now, she had resisted everything they had tried. Every test, every torture, every attempt to break her will had failed completely. This was not how things were supposed to work. The Vorthak Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. They had studied hundreds of species. They knew how to break any creature's spirit within hours. Yet this small human female continued to sit in perfect silence, showing no fear, no pain, no weakness at all. It was starting to make Kethvar angry in a personal way. He had been a commander in the Imperial fleet for over 200 years. He had broken the will of proud warrior races and brilliant scientific civilizations. But one primitive girl from a Deathworld was making him look foolish in front of his crew. "I know you can hear me," he said to the wall. "I know you understand our language. Your brain scans show that you are processing everything we say." Hana continued her meditation. Her breathing was as steady as always. She had learned to ignore the alien's voice, just like she ignored all the other distractions they had tried. "Your silence will not protect you forever," Kethvar continued. "Eventually, you will break. They all do. I have seen creatures much stronger than you beg for mercy." He moved closer to the wall, pressing his face against it. His multiple eyes focused on Hana's still form. "Do you know what we are going to do to your planet?" he asked. "After we finish studying your species, we will return to your Earth. We will harvest useful specimens and eliminate the rest. Your entire civilization will become a footnote in our research archives." Hana's breathing did not change, but deep inside her mind, she felt something cold and sharp take shape. It was not fear. It was something much more dangerous. "We will start with your major population centers," Kethvar went on. "Your Seoul, your Tokyo, your New York. We have weapons that can destroy entire cities in seconds. Millions of your kind will die without even knowing what killed them." The cold thing in Hana's mind grew larger. She thought about her family, her friends, all the innocent people who would die if these aliens carried out their plan. "But perhaps we will keep some of them alive," Kethvar said, and his voice took on a cruel tone. "Children make excellent test subjects. Their minds are more flexible, easier to modify. We could breed them as livestock or train them as servants." For the first time in 5 days, Hana's breathing pattern changed. It was subtle, so subtle that the monitoring equipment barely registered it. But Kethvar noticed. He had been watching her so closely that he saw the tiny shift. "Ah," he said with satisfaction. "Now we are getting somewhere. You do care about the young ones of your species." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air around Hana. Pictures of human children playing, laughing, going to school. Then the images changed, showing the same children in metal cages, being experimented on by alien scientists. "This is what will happen to them," Kethvar said. "Unless, of course, you decide to cooperate with our research. Tell us about your world's defenses. Tell us about your military capabilities. Help us understand how to conquer your planet more efficiently, and perhaps we will be more merciful to your people." Hana opened her eyes for the first time in 5 days. She looked directly at Commander Kethvar through the clear wall. Her eyes were dark and calm, but there was something in them that made the alien take a step backward. "You should not have told me about the children," she said. Her voice was soft and quiet, but it carried something that made Kethvar's skin crawl. It was the first time she had spoken since her capture, and her words held the weight of absolute certainty. "So the creature finally speaks," Kethvar said, trying to recover his confidence. "What will you do about it, little human? You are trapped in an energy cage on a ship far from your primitive world. You have not even stood up in 5 days." Hana looked at him for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes again and returned to her meditation pose. But something had changed. The air in the room felt different, charged with tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. Kethvar laughed, but it sounded forced. "Did you think your threat would frighten me? I am a warrior of the Vorthak Empire. I have conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations. You are nothing but a weak specimen from a Deathworld." Hana did not respond, but her fingers, which had been perfectly still for 5 days, began to move slightly. The movement was so small that it was almost invisible, but her muscles were awakening after days of enforced stillness. "I think I will visit your world personally," Kethvar continued. "I will find the place where you grew up and burn it to ash. I will find your family and make them pay for the trouble you have caused me." The movement in Hana's fingers increased, slightly. She was flexing them, stretching the muscles, preparing them for action. Her grandmother had taught her that the body was like a weapon that needed to be maintained and ready. "Perhaps I will bring some of your relatives back here," Kethvar said. "Your parents, your siblings. I could make you watch while we perform experiments on them. That might finally break your pathetic silence." Hana's breathing deepened. She was beginning to center herself not for endurance, but for action. All the meditation, all the stillness, all the waiting had been preparation for this moment. She had been conserving her strength, learning about her enemies, waiting for the right opportunity. "Your brother is a soldier, according to our intelligence," Kethvar continued. "Lee Dae-ho of the South Korean Special Forces. He is probably searching for you right now, not knowing that you are light years away from his primitive world. When we return to Earth, I will kill him slowly and make you watch." The cold thing in Hana's mind crystallized into something sharp and deadly. She thought about her training, not just the meditation and martial arts, but all the other skills she had learned. Rock climbing had made her hands incredibly strong. Hiking with heavy packs had built endurance in every muscle. Years of studying geology had taught her about pressure points and weak spots in solid structures. And growing up on Earth, on a world with gravity stronger than most aliens were used to, with weather more violent than most planets experienced, with an environment that had shaped humans into incredibly adaptable survivors, had made her far more dangerous than these aliens could understand. "I can see the anger in your face now," Kethvar said triumphantly. "Finally, some emotion from the silent human. But anger without power is useless. You are still trapped, still helpless, still at my mercy." Hana opened her eyes again. This time, when she looked at Kethvar, he saw something that made his blood freeze. It was not anger in her eyes. It was calculation. Cold, patient, deadly calculation. "You made a mistake," she said softly. "What mistake?" Kethvar demanded, but his voice had lost its confidence. "You told me your name," Hana said. "You told me about your empire. You told me your plans, and most importantly, you told me about the children." She paused, her dark eyes never leaving his alien face. "Now, I know exactly who needs to die." The words were spoken so quietly they were almost a whisper, but they hit Kethvar like a physical blow. For the first time in his long career as a conqueror, he felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. Kethvar tried to laugh at the human's words, but the sound came out wrong. "You know who needs to die. You are trapped behind an energy barrier that nothing can break. You have been sitting in the same position for 5 days. What exactly do You think you can do to me? Hana did not answer immediately. Instead, she shifted her weight slightly, preparing to move for the first time since her capture. Her muscles were stiff from the long meditation, but they were also rested and ready. Every fiber in her body was charged with potential energy, like a bow drawn tight and ready to release an arrow. "I think," she said quietly, "that you have made several mistakes." "What mistakes?" Kathavar demanded, moving closer to the energy barrier. "First," Hana said, her voice still soft and calm, "you assumed that staying still meant I was weak. But in my culture, stillness is strength. Patience is power. You have been watching a rock gather moss, not understanding that the rock was preparing to become an avalanche." Kathavar's multiple eyes narrowed. Something in her tone was making him nervous, though he could not understand why. "Second," Hana continued, "you thought that because I come from what you call a death world, I must be fragile and primitive. But death worlds do not create weak creatures. They create survivors. Every human alive today is descended from ancestors who survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed softer species." She finally stood up. The movement was fluid and graceful, despite 5 days of sitting in the same position. As she rose to her full height, Kathavar realized that she was taller than he had expected. Not as tall as him, but solid and strong in a way that spoke of dense bones and powerful muscles. "Third," Hana said, taking a step toward the energy barrier, "you told me about the children. You made this personal, and humans become very dangerous when you threaten their young." "The barrier will hold," Kathavar said, but he took a step backward. "You cannot break through it. No physical force can penetrate our containment fields." Hana smiled for the first time since her capture. It was not a pleasant smile. "You studied my species, but you did not study me," she said. "I am Lee Hana, granddaughter of Lee Sunja, who survived the Japanese occupation and the Korean War. I am the daughter of Lee Jin-ho, who built bridges that still stand today. I am the sister of Lee Dae-ho, who protects our nation's borders." She moved closer, to the barrier, and Kathavar could see that her hands were no longer the soft hands of a young student. 5 days of preparation had awakened something in her body, something that had been sleeping until now. "I have studied rocks and mountains my entire life," she continued. "I know about pressure points and structural weaknesses. I know how things break when force is applied correctly." "The barrier cannot be broken," Kathavar insisted, but his voice was rising with panic. "You are right," Hana agreed. "Your barrier cannot be broken from the outside by brute force. But you made a fourth mistake." "What mistake?" Kathavar whispered. "You came too close." Without warning, without any change in her calm expression, Hana's hand shot forward with impossible speed. Her fingers, strengthened by years of rock climbing and martial arts training, passed through the energy barrier as if it were not there. Kathavar had just enough time to realize that the barrier was designed to keep things in, not to keep reaching. Hands out, before Hana's fingers locked around his throat. The grip was precise and incredibly strong. She had studied anatomy as part of her geology education, learning about the structure of bones and joints. She knew exactly where to apply. Pressure to disrupt the flow of blood and air. "This is for Minsu and Sora," she said quietly. The twist was quick, professional, and final. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. Kathavar's body fell to the floor, his forearms twitching once before going still. Hana pulled her hand back through the barrier and looked down at the dead alien commander. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only a cold determination to survive and protect her world. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. She could hear the pounding of alien feet running through corridors, voices shouting in languages she did not understand. They had discovered their commander's death, but Hana was no longer trapped. Kethvar's body had fallen against the barrier control panel, and his weight had damaged something important. Sparks flew from the machinery, and the blue shimmer of the energy field began to flicker. She waited until the barrier was completely down, then stepped out of her prison for the first time in 5 days. Her legs were strong and steady. Her mind was clear and focused. She had work to do. The corridor outside was made of the same strange, glowing material as her cell. There were no windows, but she could feel that she was inside a large ship moving through space. She could sense the artificial gravity, the recycled air, the hum of massive engines. Dr. Vex Thul appeared at the end of the corridor, along with several other aliens carrying weapons. When they saw her standing over Kethvar's body, they froze in shock. "Impossible," Dr. Vex Thul breathed. "How did you escape? How did you kill the commander?" Hana looked at them with the same calm expression she had maintained throughout her captivity. "I am from Earth," she said simply. "We do not surrender." The aliens raised their weapons, but Hana was already moving. 5 days of forced stillness had taught her body to explode into action when needed. She moved like water, like wind, like the forces of nature that had shaped her homeworld. The aliens discovered that their energy weapons were useless against a target that moved like liquid lightning. They discovered that their superior technology meant nothing against someone who fought with the desperate ferocity of a cornered predator. Most importantly, they discovered that they had made a terrible mistake in choosing Earth as a target for conquest. Hours later, Hana stood in the ship's communication center. Most of the crew was dead. A few survivors huddled in the corners, too terrified to move. She had left Dr. Vex Thul alive for a specific purpose. "Send a message to your empire," she told him as she worked to understand the alien communication system. "Tell them that Earth is not a source of specimens. Tell them that humans are not weak prey animals to be studied and harvested." "What? What should I tell them?" Dr. Vexathul stammered. Hana activated the communication array and began transmitting coordinates for Earth's location, along with technical specifications of Vorthak weapons and ships that she had memorized during her escape. "Tell them," she said, "that we are a Deathworld species, and Deathworlds do not create victims. They create survivors who become hunters when their families are threatened." She finished her transmission and looked at the surviving aliens. "Tell them that one human girl killed your commander without even standing up. Tell them what happened when they made her stand up. And tell them that there are 8 billion more humans on Earth, and every single one of them will fight to protect their children." 6 months later, Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar warship, built with captured Vorthak technology. Beside him, his sister Hana served as the ship's chief xenobiology officer, using her unique experience to help humanity understand their new neighbors among the stars. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Earth was not a death world to be exploited. It was a death world that created protectors, and those protectors were now coming to space.